Okay, this is this class is Lagyu, Vakya, Vritti. This is a recap of really a recap of quite most of it before we go into verse 13. This recap leads on to verse 13. Okay, so now we're getting towards the end of this text now, and the text began with a pretty detailed discussion of Atma, Anatma, Viveka. That is, Viveka is discrimination between Atma, that which you are, and Anatma, that which you are not. This enables you, the mind, or the person, to know that you are the observer. Everything else is the observed. You in this context will be witnessing consciousness, Sakshi. And this is Twam Pada Vichara, inquiry into the meaning of Twam, which is you, which is what Driktarsha Viveka is as well. We've done Driktarsha Viveka before. And as we pointed out in the last class, there is now a dramatic introduction of very specific subject matter, because what started out in Twam Pada Vichara is an inquiry into you, Atma consciousness, and this has now dramatically shifted to Tat Pada Vichara, the content of everything. Even though this
Can I
text,
ask you?
yes?
Robert? As we say at the end of the last class, you say there is now a dramatic introduction
Yes,
of
that's
yeah, it says not, so it must be now. Okay.
Typo, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So this text is not about the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, it's about the Mahavakya Aham Brahmasmi, but all the Mahavakya, the four Mahavakya, are saying the exact same thing. So Aham Brahmasmi is Tattvamasi. It just approaches it in a different way. That's why Swami Tapananda will introduce slightly Tattvamasi in this. Okay. One Mahavakya is not better or more important or more powerful than another. The four of them are equally the same. So what we're going to see here now is, in the next few verses, is Brahman being presented in a way that most of the other texts in Vedanta don't do, because Brahman is usually presented in a very specific way. We have texts like the Taittiriya Upanishad, and Brahman is presented as the Adhisthanta, the underlying reality of everything. That underlying reality because of which everything exists. Now we're talking about cause effect. So we also understand that consciousness, that not only is consciousness pure, it also cannot be inert. The order of the universe, all knowledge, everything has to be consciousness, because there's nothing separate or different from consciousness. So consciousness can't be inert. There has to be jnanam, there has to be intelligence. If there's no intelligence in regard to consciousness, then there's no intelligence. Intelligence must be consciousness. It can't be anything other. That's where jnanam comes in. So we have a word. There's satyam, jnanam, and antam, Brahman. We have the first word is satyam. which is real, that which does not change. Then we introduce another word, jnanam, knowledge, all knowledge. And we introduce a third word to show that we're talking about that we're not talking about some individual thing, which is anantam. If we speak about knowledge, usually we're speaking about knowledge of computers or geography, mathematics, and engineering, politics, whatever. Yeah, we're talking about specific things. But the jnanam, that is the word jnanam in Sanskrit that is deliberately placed after satyam is knowledge, and the word after that is knowledge of what? Infinitude, knowledge of everything, anything. Okay. All knowledge, just knowledge, full stop. Knowledge of, yes, anantam, knowledge of infinitude. Knowledge of ananda, limitlessness. So anantam means infinitude or without limits. And what this means is that existence and knowledge, it has no boundaries or limits. If we're pigeonholing a certain kind of knowledge, a certain kind of name and form of a certain kind of knowledge, it will have its limits within its subject matter. But what we're talking about here is knowledge itself. And that's how we begin the discussion of Brahman. So we have some rhetorical questions for inquiry. If Brahman is pure existence, pure consciousness, what am I holding in my hand? Or what are objects? We can't say that it's pure consciousness because that doesn't make sense. So we say that Brahman is the cause, the Karnam, and Jagat, the world, is the effect. Karyam, Karnam, Karyam. I see, Vicky, you've just entered the room. You're already in the room? Okay. It's okay. Okay. Okay, there's two of you then. Oh, you're moving devices, Vicky, are you? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Can you then leave the one that, can you leave the, yeah, got it. Good. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So we say that Brahman, and this is the foundational teaching in Vedanta, the Karnam Karya Prakriya, the cause and effect Prakriya. Okay. The Karnam Karya Prakriya, the cause and effect Prakriya. Brahman is the cause, and Jagat, the world, is the effect. And so that's fine. But another question comes from that, and this is where it gets tricky in Vedanta. How can that be? And this has been a real problem for Vedanta, for the ancient rishis for quite a long time. And in actual fact, Adi Shankaracharya resolved this by introducing Maya. Gaudapada is very well known for introducing Ajatavada, the theory of non-origination, of creation, and Shankaracharya introduced or brought forth from the teachings Maya, the concept of Maya. And this is what we're going into slightly here. So Vedanta, in order to explain in some way how pure consciousness can become manifest in the universe, Vedanta introduces the mysterious concept of Maya. Maya is quite tricky subject, and Maya is quite tricky subject to teach. And Swami Turiya would always advise me to try to stay away from teaching Maya. Adi Shankaracharya advises as well, you can't get lost in the teachings of Maya. And for what purpose? They're not the teachings of Advaita. The teachings of Maya are not the teachings of Advaita. The teachings of Maya are Dvaita, dualistic, not Advaita. So we don't want to focus on them too much. We deliberately use teachings of Maya to just explain something, to set the groundwork for something. But our focus is always, always, always Advaita, always Brahman. Okay. So the mysterious concept of Maya is introduced, and from that, very intense discussions and debates can follow. Because Maya is introduced, then Ishvara, God, is introduced as a creator, sustainer, and destroyer of the world. So we can say that Brahman with Maya becomes God. That sounds complicated, and it's intentionally complicated. It's to point out something ironic, which is that Brahman doesn't have any qualities or attributes. Brahman is one, Advaita, non-dual, Nirguna. Nirguna is Sanskrit for without attributes. And this is kind of a real paradoxical thing in Vedanta, because it seems strange that to understand something that is so simple, Vedanta introduces quite complicated subjects. And some people say, or some people claim, and some people think that to understand these complicated subjects is Brahmanyanam. Brahmanyanam is knowledge of Brahman. The enlightened person has Brahmanyanam. So some people think that, some people claim and say that to understand these complicated subjects such as Maya is Brahmanyanam, knowledge of Brahman, but it's not. This is only understanding Vedantic teachings, which is philosophical in a way. If you try to understand Brahman, you've created a big problem for yourself, because this is philosophical understanding. Brahman is not an object for you to be able to understand. The mind cannot understand Brahman because the mind is the object. Brahman would be the subject. Okay? Doesn't reverse the other way. We know this from earlier in this text. We know this from Vritti Vakya. You would have, to try to understand Brahman, you would have started down the road of philosophy, and Vedanta is not philosophical. It's not philosophy. It's not a matter of opinion for debates. But these teachings have been introduced because students keep asking certain questions. But the teachings themselves are not enough. Even though these complicated teachings have to be taught, they're not enough on their own for Brahmanyanam. And the reason for that is because they are the third person. We're talking about Brahman. People are reading about Brahman. They're understanding knowledge about Brahman in the third person. We're talking about a thing called Brahman. By bringing Brahman into third person, it's been made into another idea or a concept. We don't want concepts in Vedanta. Puja Swamiji didn't appreciate concepts in Vedanta. He says even things like Vritti Vakya can be made into a concept. Those things are quite dangerous in regard to sadhana. If we make something into a concept, it's more or less It's no more or less than any other object. That's the big problem. So, how does a person gain Brahmanyanam? Knowledge of Brahman. How does one become a Brahman Yani, a knower of Brahman? And there is a trick to this, and we will look at this. It's going to be simply put in next verse, verse 13. Lagyu, Vakya, Vritti is the short version of this Mahavakya Aham Brahmasmi, while there is a Vakya Vritti, but it's over 50 verses. This text, Lagyu, Vakya, Vritti, is 18 verses. Okay, guys, so it was just a recap. Tomorrow will be a proper class. You guys can attend tomorrow. The class is half ready already. So, any questions? Any questions about anything? How is Avacharavada for you guys? Good, good.
Yeah, that's still. I do it all day, really.
Yeah. And it's the more that we apply the prakya Avacharavada, the more that we will see it automatically. And what we want to do in Vedanta, what Vedanta is leading a person to be able to do, is for this to be automatic, spontaneous and automatic. So it is, yeah. And sometimes for everybody, it doesn't matter if you're enlightened or not enlightened, a yani or yani. Sometimes there can be discrimination. Sometimes the discrimination can be clouded, and that's okay. You just bring yourself back to it. Sometimes things in life can be rocky. I've had a situation over the weekend where it was rocky for me, and that's okay. It gets rocky, and we don't feel superior in regard to Ishvara, to God. God is the wielder of Maya. God is the karma paladata, the provider of karma. So even the enlightened person is, if I can say it like this, it's quite possibly politically incorrect, but even the enlightened person is subservient to God. The enlightened person is still a person, even though the mind knows it's not a person. That makes sense. But the person is still subservient to God. God is the karma paladata. Doesn't matter if you Brahmanyanam, if you're an enlightened person or not. The mind and body is still subject to the world, part of the world. The mind and body is still subject to karma. So we don't have a problem with things, even if they're uncomfortable. You know. So the other thing is, Vicky had said about, say for the group, Vicky had said about in between the Oms in meditation, when there is no mental activity, when there's no vrittis, then is that the same as deep sleep? I initially thought no, and then I thought yes, because Nirval Kappa Chaitanyam, that kind of threw me. But Swami Tarapananda has told me that, but he said something in a certain way to me, which makes me think that they're not the same. In deep sleep, there's an absence of the mind, but in between the Oms, it would be, if there's no mental activity, then it would be Nirval Kappa Samadhi. So what is pure consciousness, but it's Nirval Kappa Samadhi. But in Nirval Kappa Samadhi, it's like in Sattva Kappa Samadhi, it's like you become one with everything. So the mind and body, you're still aware of the mind and body. Nirval Kappa Samadhi, you wouldn't be aware of the body, but the one vritti that remains is the I vritti. Because in Nirval Kappa Samadhi, you know that you are Brahman. Yeah, you're Brahman. So Aham Brahmasmi remains, I am Brahman remains, which means there is mental activity. That's the difference, okay? That's the difference, okay? Yeah, so for a vritti to remain, I am Brahman, of course, that's mental activity. Okay, so that's just a little correction, really, you know, a little clarity. It's helped me out as well. Okay, guys, any questions? Okay, great. So, guys, see you tomorrow, okay? Okay, then, namaste. Bye-bye, 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 bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, now. Bye-bye.